Chris Lee and Blake Lovell here to react to the Southeastern Conference and its bowl pairings. This episode of the show brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. The holiday season is off and rolling, NFL in full stride, NBA, NHL hitting midseason form. BetOnline is your number one destination for all your sports wagering information with up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. BetOnline is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports. It's not just the big four. BetOnline has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that's played, from MMA to international soccer. Head to BetOnline today. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Blake, we got the pairings. Give me your initial thoughts.
Well, my initial thoughts are, thank goodness there's not a Kentucky versus Iowa game on the schedule, which was what we talked about last year in the Music City Bowl. Instead, Tennessee's going to play Iowa. And just for what it's worth, Tennessee is 7.5-point favorite in that game. Over under, actually high for an Iowa game, it seems, 35.5.
What?
According to our friends at BetOnline. It seems a little high to me. What was the over under last year for Iowa and Kentucky? It was something absurd.
It wasn't much.
It was in the 20s, wasn't it? Had to be low 20s.
Hang
maybe.
on, I want to go ahead. I want to figure something out. What that makes the final score, because I want to figure out how many points Iowa's got to get to in this.
Well, we'll figure it out. But no, I mean, besides that, like, you've got some very interesting pairings, I think, with some of these. As always. Okay, by the way, just quickly, I don't forget this. The over under was 31 for Kentucky Iowa last year.
Okay, so what is it? What is it again for Iowa Tennessee?
35.5.
Okay. Hang on, I'll get this in a second.
Well, and I just want to point out, remember, and I know we're having fun with this, but remember that game wound up being 21-0.
And the spread was 7.
Yeah, for the Tennessee game, yes. But Kentucky Iowa last year, 31 was the over under. My went under, folks. Remember that Iowa won 21-0.
Hey.
3 quarters without scoring, but we're joking. Somewhat.
That's a 24. That's a 21-14 predicted final. And tell me how on God's green earth Iowa gets to 14.
Well, we'll find out. But anyways, we had our fun with that. But like, if you actually look at the schedule, I think there's some very entertaining games here. Again, knowing that we don't know who's going to be playing for some of these teams because it's official. It's transfer portal day around the world. I really intrigued by Missouri, Ohio State, of course, until Ohio State starter transfers. Still think that's a very entertaining. It is crazy, isn't it? Like,
this is like preseason football. All right, there's a team, we're going to call it Ohio State, but you don't have all your regular players because they're sitting out for this or that.
Yeah. Is there a reason why we wait so long to play these bowl games?
Well, I mean, I guess you can't play a bowl game in November, but you mean just the lag time between.
Yeah. Is there a defined reason? Maybe I should know this, but is there just a reason why we wait multiple weeks to play these games?
Oh, I think it's to build the excitement.
Yeah, it's great. All right, your starting quarterback's not playing. Your starting running back's not playing. Half your team's not playing. So I think
here's the we can debate categories of bowls, like who in the tax industry got the better bowl game. Was that the Tax Act Texas Bowl, Texas A&M and Oklahoma State, or was that the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, which is Clemson and Kentucky? And it doesn't stop there. If you like your pastries, let me find this one.
Oh dear.
Because
it seems fitting though that we got Tennessee and Iowa are in the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, for some reason that seems fitting.
You got your orange there. Okay, you got the famous Toastery Bowl. You got Western Kentucky and Old Dominion. But hold my beer. We got the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's NC State and Kansas State. No debate there.
Oof. All right. Well, if you can't, who can you rely on if you can't rely on ReliaQuest with LSU and Wisconsin? But no, I mean, look, overall, you started with the question.
LSU has to get a better opponent than that, right? Come on.
Well, I mean, look, you started with the question of what are we looking forward to, and 4 minutes later, like, this is where we are, because it's silly season. Like, bowl games are just silly at this point because unless they have, the playoff tied to it, it's just you don't know who's going to be playing for these teams. I mean, like we just said, Kyle McCord, he's out of there, Ohio State. So, I mean, what do you do, right? Like these matchups look fun on paper. Missouri Ohio State should be entertaining. It's big for Missouri, no matter who plays. That's a huge game for Missouri to be here. Like we said, a huge year for the Tigers. Ole Miss Penn State's fun for the personalities involved. A Lane Kiffin versus James Franklin. That's entertaining. And then there's Georgia and Florida State, which in its own right is at least interesting because I think I'm, very curious to see the mindset of both teams coming into this game. Does Florida State come out? And again, if we assume who's going to play, who's not going to play, but Florida State come out with something to prove here, and they're like, hey, this is it. Like, this is our chance. But ultimately, even if you win a game like this, like, sure, it sends a middle finger to the committee, but it ultimately doesn't get you in the playoff, right? And so in Georgia's mindset, they go from 1 to 6, like we talked about in the other video. I mean, what's their motivation level for the first time and seemingly forever playing in a game that really doesn't mean a whole lot? So, yeah. So
that's like the time Alabama no showed to play Utah when the Sugar Bowl, or was it way back when?
Yeah.
Except I don't know, Florida State without a quarterback against that defense. That's a tough ask.
Let me quickly just give you, and we can debate some of these, and we're going to rank these. We're going to rank these games by the time we finish this conversation. I'm putting you on the spot. Clemson is a 6.5 point favorite over Kentucky, according to Bet Online. Ohio State 3 point favorite over Missouri, according to Bet Online. Penn State 5 point favorite against Ole Miss, according to Bet Online. It's a really great start for the SEC odds wise. Auburn 2.5 point favorite over Maryland, Music City Bowl. That one is. Georgia a 14 point favorite over Florida State. LSU 10.5 point favorite over Wisconsin. Tennessee 7.5, as we said a few minutes ago, and then of course Michigan 1.5 point favorite over Alabama. So
I think Missouri, Ohio State is the one that kind of jumps out at me. I don't know if that's more or less interesting with no Kyle McCord. And the other one I think is Penn State, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Although Clemson, Kentucky could be sneaky interesting because we just have no idea which teams show up.
Well, again, you don't know who's going to be
which
playing.
Players for which teams show up,
yeah,
right?
You have no idea. So, yeah. By the way, I guess the only one I didn't mention on there, there's no line for Texas A&M, Oklahoma State right now. So not on Bet Online yet. So again, some of these lines wind up getting pulled or move huge swings, right? Because based on transfers and everything. So
why would that one be special?
I don't know. It may just be just not on there yet. Like that's very well possible. But
A&M, I think, would be a big favorite in that game. I'm looking.
Would they?
Well, I mean, based on computer numbers, let me just give you. This is the points above average thing that I keep up with. A&M is 15 points above average from the computers I pick from. I'm not going to swear to you that that's exact, but I use this as kind of a guide to say if you match team A up against team B, Oklahoma State 6.7 points. So that means A&M would be about an 8 point favorite on a neutral field, according to this. But then again, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what players?
Yeah, like I'm curious. Like if you're a bettor and you bet these games, what is your strategy? We should ask Brian Edwards this. Like, do you want to get in early on these? Do you want to really just let this play out and figure out exactly where this thing's going to wind up with who plays and who doesn't? So interesting. I'm gonna get Brian to talk about that this week on bets and ball games with him and Jay. I want to see what he says about that.
This feels like the person that wins an office pool in this is like the same person that wins your NCAA tournament bracket pool, and they have no idea what's going on, but they pick by uniform colors or mascots or something. That this feels like what bowl season could be.
Yeah, and it's just kind of there are so many games now. Like we said, we always talk about this. Bowl games are a matter of motivation. Like we say it all the time. Like that's why I think Missouri, Ohio State is probably could be the top pick on this outside of the obvious Alabama versus Michigan. Just because like Missouri's motivation level is sky high. I mean, they are they're all in here because this is, again, a special season, and to cap it off with a win over Ohio State would be huge for Eli Drinkwitz and company. But then again, it's like you go to Georgia where it's, you know, does Florida State have more motivation than Georgia does in that game? I'd say yes. Like, of course they do, because they're out to prove something based on, getting screwed out of the playoff in their mind. And like we said, I think Georgia's also got a decent claim there for also not being in the playoff. But yeah, so I think it's, motivation, how teams look. But like we said, there's so many cases now where teams come in and your offense looks different, your defense looks different because you don't have starters who got you to these bowl games, and so makes it much harder to predict how these play out.
Yeah, college football is such a mess. The product in some ways on the field, the competitiveness I like better than ever. The other stuff is just, and we could do a whole other video on that, and maybe we will, but we won't do it today. It was interesting. You talked about what are we waiting for? The SEC doesn't start its bowl games till December the 27th. By that point, over half the bowls will be played, or just about half the bowls will be played. Actually, and it's not even just that. Well, I'm like, what are we doing here? You're starting Oklahoma State and Texas at 9 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. Stay up late, man. It's bowl season. So
yeah, I mean, where are we going? I get it, but I'm just
I just don't. Again, I understand, like, there's travel and like all this other stuff, and like you said, you want to build up the games, you have the festivities, all this other stuff, and plus you've got Christmas in there, and all, like, it's just. But man, if there's ever been a more clear divide in terms of like this era of college football and the previous era, it is now with the transfer portal, the way it works, NIL, all this, and like bowl games. It's just like you wait this long after the season. It's just so different, right? It's just, of course, people opted out before and all this other stuff. You had guys that were high draft picks and all this other, like, yeah, but it's like now you just got guys who are, have already committed to other teams, and their team hasn't even played a bowl game yet that they led them to. And so it's wild.
You could actually solve some of this with NIL. All right, you don't, you play in the bowl game, you get X percent or whatever you're going to, if you don't, then part of it's gone. I mean, there's ways to actually use that to help here. But
well, it's like Bo Nix has to announce that he's playing in the bowl game, and like we're all like shocked.
Everybody's
stunned.
Like, oh, yeah. I know.
Wow.
That's where we are. What a system.
Yeah. But all right. Well, we'll get away from the doom and gloom stuff. But like, all right, let's have some fun with ranking the bowls here. So obviously you're gonna make some people upset, but who cares? It's
okay. Well, let's start here. What do we know is missing? Because I want to know what we're getting. Like, for instance, we know A&M has a new coaching staff.
Yeah.
So no Bobby Petrino at the wheel. He's at Arkansas. And I'm trying to think of key guys that have opted out and hit the portal. We're doing this Monday morning, so
yeah.
I mean, the world is probably blowing up as we're doing this.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up an SEC transfer portal tracker, but remember, like you just said, there could be people that watch this later in the week, and half these players could already be transferring. So, yeah, I don't know. It's who knows, right? So, I don't know exactly what we're missing. Like I said, unless it's just transfers, like that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we mentioned the Ohio State one. Like that's a significant transfer. Other guys have already announced too, but so it's honestly, Chris, it's probably impossible to even figure out it's impossible at this point. We just don't know because there's going to be a huge chunk of transfers just today, Monday alone. So, and we're recording this before many of them, are going to announce. So,
okay, I think I got my number one.
All right, number one. We're not counting Alabama, Michigan, or are we?
Well, I mean, obviously that would be one.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if we need to take that out.
Get that out of the way. Next game to me is Ole Miss and Penn State in the Peach Bowl.
I think that has a chance to be the most entertaining game, but I think I would still rank Missouri Ohio State ahead of. And that's just me just leaning in, I think, to the Missouri season. And
Yeah.
it's in Arlington, I mean, it's a Jerry World. Like, this is just it's a huge stage for Missouri. And think about it, I mentioned all year there were still so many people who looked at Missouri and just said, "Boy, they're
Yeah.
overrated." And I just kept saying, "Are you like if you're not on board now?" And I'm not saying they lose. Look, they lose this game. That doesn't mean they weren't any good. Like, that's ridiculous, by the way, too, to base an entire team season on how their bowl game plays out. We can't do that anymore, unless you're talking about the teams in the playoff, perhaps. But still, they got their way there. And Georgia, Florida State could be different from that dynamic too, based on the Florida State thing. But yeah, so I think this is just everything combined. Like, for Missouri to have this kind of season, they get Ohio State, right? They get one of the Big Ten villains here, and they get it at Jerry World. It just seems like the ultimate
Yeah.
setup that just feels like the most exciting kind of
Easier travel
storyline for
from
me.
Missouri.
Yeah, it just so I think I would go Missouri Ohio State 1.
That would be my next game. I was debating between those two teams. What is the line on that one?
Ohio State was favored by 3, I think, but
Really?
remember, I don't know how that's changed, and I can find it actually as you're talking, but
Well,
I
the
can tell you how
computer
that's
here's the
changed.
reason. The computer composite I've got, and keep in mind this has been underrating Missouri all year in my mind, but it's got it closer to a 10.5 point game.
Mm. Well, but it's also Ohio State just lost
Kyle McCord.
their quarterback, so
Was
you
he
know,
was he asked to leave, recruited? I mean, I'm
I don't know.
look, the defense was the better part of their team.
Well,
And of course, you get to
here,
chase Marvin Harrison Jr. around no matter who the quarterback is, so that's fun.
so let me look at I guess I can't pull up I'm curious to see where this started. I know people are probably seeing this like, oh, I can tell you where it started. We have been doing so much on this. I haven't even had a chance to look where this Missouri Ohio State line started. Because I'm really curious to see how it's changed. But I think there's just a lot. There's a lot to the bone on the bone there with this Missouri Ohio State game based off of that. So I would put that at the top for me.
Okay, next.
So I guess you've given your top 2. You went Ole Miss, Penn State.
Well, I mean,
1.
we have the top 2, or do it just in different order, or do you? I don't
think
know
so,
how
but
you keep Ole Miss, Penn State out of your top 2.
I do, and I'll tell you why. I think there is a fascination with this Georgia Florida State game that I could absolutely justify putting that at 2. Now, and I think again, it's what we're ranking these games on. Do you want quality or do you want story? I mean, story wise, that game's probably at the top. I mean, just based off of think about where we are here. But I think there is a fascination to does Georgia come out and just dominate Florida State and beat them, unmercifully here to to maybe prove a point. And again, this point means nothing because it's not going to change anything this season. But I do think there is a huge fascination I have with that game that I could justify putting it even at the top, but I would probably put it slightly behind Missouri Ohio State for me, and maybe move Ole Miss Penn State to 3rd. So that's what I'm going to go with.
So Georgia being a no-show against Florida State is your justification for ranking
We don't
this
know.
number 2.
That's the point.
That's a great argument. I can't wait to
No.
watch that based on that.
I can't wait to
Hey
watch
guys,
it
if Georgia
on...
doesn't show up, this is a great game, and you should all tune in.
No, that's not what I'm saying here. I am saying that would you not like the online discourse during the course of this game will be unlike any other game out there outside of the college football playoff games. Not even close. Everyone will be on every play. We will be talking about Georgia just scored a 45-yard touchdown in the first 5 minutes of the game. Florida State should have never been in the playoff. Florida State comes out and scores 2 touchdowns. They intercept a pass. They run it back for a touchdown. They get a 90-yard score elsewhere. All of a sudden, they've jumped up 14-0 on Georgia. Well, that proves that Florida State should have been in the playoff. Are you kidding me? You're not there for that kind of entertainment? That would be gold, Jerry. Gold. So, absolutely, I would put this one high on the list without question. Now, if you're just ranking these based on point spreads and outcome of the game, sure, this is probably going to feel like it should be lower. but pure story, drama, entertainment value, online discourse, Twitter, X, put this at number 1 for me.
And you want to be my latex salesman.
Oh, boy. All right, next. We've got our top 3. Unless are you putting this one in your top 3, or are you going to put this at last? Are you putting this last, or what?
I don't know.
Which of those other games
right.
are you going to rank ahead of Georgia, Florida State?
I was like doing our basketball power rankings. Like, how do you pick from the ugly contestants here?
Oh, I think there's a clear divide in some of these.
Okay.
I say that. I don't. The rest of these games are.
Texas A&M, Oklahoma State could be interesting under the same. What's everybody got to play for? It's geographic. The teams are both close. They used to be both in the Big 12.
True. Is that what we're going on?
We're really working hard here.
Wow.
Gosh, I want to see LSU play anytime LSU plays. I just wanted to see, like, could we not have gotten, I don't know, a better Big Ten team?
I mean,
LSU and Penn State would have been fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Ole Miss and Penn State is still fun, but that would have been.
I know some of these games just are.
Like, I would like to be able to just juggle the schedule and just match some of these teams myself instead of what ended up happening. Now I think what happened, I think I've heard a little bit this morning. There was an expectation that Florida State was going to make the playoff, and it just sent everything into chaos when it didn't. There were some other things that were maybe slated to happen that when that domino fell the way it did, you get this. Clemson, Kentucky is one I've kind of had my eye on a little bit.
That would be 4 on my list.
Okay,
assuming everyone is playing for Kentucky. That's what I would go with.
Okay. I will go Florida, Georgia State, all kidding aside, at 3, just because those are 2 teams that nearly made the playoffs. The circumstances make for a bizarre game, but I don't think you can put that lower than 3. And I think Kentucky, Clemson, I could put next.
I think,
especially after the way Kentucky went out of its regular season being Louisville, and of course the retention of Mark Stoops.
Yeah, I think we just put the caveat in that we just are going to assume all teams are at full strength, knowing that's not going to be the case, but we have nothing else to go on. So if it's the case, I would go Kentucky, Clemson next. I think there's some entertainment value there. So I'll go that too as top 4. After that's where things get a little tricky.
I think I'm gonna go A&M, Oklahoma State next.
I think that's what I would go with too.
I mean, we kid. These aren't bad games. It just
they're not bad games.
Maybe we hope for something different. I've been saying for a while, send Texas A&M to a game in its own. You saw them projected like everywhere else late in the season, but Texas. I thought, why would you do that? So I think
LSU,
that's.
I'd go LSU, Wisconsin after that, and I feel bad putting LSU that low, but they are a 10.5 point favorite. And I know I just mentioned
don't think
Georgia.
Wisconsin's that good. That's the problem. I think LSU is going to clobber them.
That's what I mean. We say that, but LSU's defense can always give up some points here. So there may be some points on the board in this one, especially with LSU's offense.
But LSU could score against the 85 Bears too.
Well, yeah, I'll go this next. So now we've got a real interesting decision after that. We're down to 2 here. Auburn, Maryland, and Tennessee, Iowa.
All right, I think there's a perverse level of excitement anytime Iowa plays a football game. For which case you could actually argue to move that game up. See, I think to me, Iowa, Tennessee, is more interesting from a competitive standpoint than Wisconsin LSU. Do you remember what LSU did in its bowl game a year ago?
Yeah.
LSU still doing end zone dances.
Yeah. I don't know, man. An over under at 35.5. That's my only issue with this game. Like, I don't think it's going to be Iowa, Kentucky from last year, but oh man, there's potential there. There is potential. I think Tennessee. What did I say? Tennessee was 7.5-point favorite.
Yeah,
but I think Tennessee should win the game. But
I think Tennessee wins by more than that.
Yeah, that's what. Like, I just don't know if I could put this anywhere, but at the bottom, just based on the over under. Yeah, I don't know. Like, even like Auburn, Maryland. What did I say on that one? I can't find it now. Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite, over under 48.5. So it's not. I don't think that one's the most exciting. But what I will say is, it just seems like every time Auburn plays a football game, there's drama of some sort. So maybe there's something.
You know what?
To that.
We shortchanged that game, and I'm going to tell you why.
Why?
I'm looking at the computer composite I've got in front of me. Number 30, number 32 Auburn, number 33 Maryland. 0.3 points that separates them, according to this little thing I put together.
Well, I mean, I guess you could say this.
I know it is. I know it is not the most enticing brand of football to watch. I get that, but if you want your games close, and let's face it, a lot of these bowl games are laughers. It's not a bad starting point.
Ohio State beat Maryland 37-17. Penn State beat Maryland 51-15. Michigan beat Maryland 31-24. They also won 13-10 at Nebraska. So that's my only thing is Maryland's. They did a lot of their work early. They were 5-0 to start.
Who did Auburn beat? Arkansas.
Yeah, you say
Cal?
that. I understand, but they also, again, just for some reason, tend to. They're kind of the opposite, where they played some wild games. You had some entertaining games along the way. They lost to Georgia by 7, Ole Miss by 7, Alabama by 3 in a game they probably should have lost. So all I'm saying is I think there's. What
do they do against Northwestern and Rutgers?
Who? Maryland?
Yeah. Both those were on the road. They
beat Rutgers 42-24. Northwestern, they didn't play. Oh, yeah, they did. 33-27. They lost that game.
Okay. So those aren't bad teams. I don't know. I think
it's a sneaky
standpoint,
game.
It's a sneaky good game.
Yeah.
Might not be appointment TV, but okay, this is, as much as we made fun of it. Could we have asked for more? Yes, we could have. Is it an awful slate of games if teams mostly show up with their players and give it a go? No. It's not bad. It's watchable.
No, this is a good schedule. Yeah, if everyone's involved, the main key players are involved for all these SEC teams. You got a lot of fun games here. Like, again, I think Texas A&M Oklahoma State's probably the more underrated one. Like, I think that could just be wild. That's in Houston too. So like a lot of fan base is going to be it's a good one.
Which game?
Texas A&M Oklahoma State.
Okay, is that in Houston or is that in Dallas?
Oh, I thought it was in Houston.
No, you're right. It is in Houston. I'm sorry. I'm getting my NFL stadiums mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one's in Houston. Kentucky, Clemson, and Jacksonville. Auburn, Maryland, and Nashville. LSU, Wisconsin, and Tampa. Tennessee, Iowa, and Orlando. Missouri, Ohio State, Arlington. Georgia, Florida State, Miami. Ole Miss, Penn State, Atlanta, and then of course Alabama, Michigan, Pasadena. So.
Yeah, just for a little pushing a little further on Maryland, Auburn, Sagarin has the teams rated exactly the same. 77.4. ESPN's FBI has 0.8 points separating the two, that in Auburn's favor. SP Plus has Maryland favored exactly a point, and Team Rankings has Auburn by 1.4. So all the computers see those as basically the same team.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I would have wanted. Give me LSU versus Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. That's what
I thought about that too, just for the but I mean, I feel like I feel like have we
No.
sort of seen that play out in a different way? Like that, Iowa just cannot score against much of anybody and against anybody good. Now, I mean, the question is like, can they hold LSU under 30 or whatever? But there's no hope there they win the game.
No. Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's I like this. I think this is a really entertaining schedule for the bowl games in the SEC. So we've had fun with our rankings, but if there's, like I said, the main players are there, I don't think you can go wrong with a lot of these games or pretty much any of these games. Because again, even there is even a slight interest in like just the Tennessee Iowa matchup, and of course Tennessee fans will be happy for it. But it's just, I'm sorry, but like everybody's talked about Iowa all year and the lack of offense, and all this. So, and we talked about it last year in the Kentucky game. So,
okay, final answer time. Michigan, Alabama, obviously be one. If we're counting that, so you're still going with Ohio State and Missouri in the Cotton is your one.
yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go Peach, Penn State, and Ole Miss, but I'm going with your one as my two. Are you gonna go
Georgia, Florida State's
that?
two for me.
Okay, so that would mean between the two of us, top game to watch would be Missouri, Ohio State. I would go Georgia, Florida State 3, and then what we decide is 4. Did we go Clemson, Kentucky in the Gator Bowl?
I think we did, although I think we may be selling A&M Oklahoma State a little short there. But
I think we are. I think I'd take that one 4, and then I'd go
probably.
Gator.
Yeah.
This is tougher than I thought.
The last 3 I think can be interchangeable. I feel like I could put any order of Auburn, Maryland, LSU, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Iowa. And I want to reiterate that the Tennessee Iowa was not because of Tennessee.
I think we could give different answers based on, do we want to watch a competitive game or just do we want to watch this or that for whatever reason?
If that was the case, I would put LSU at the top point.
Well, I was going to say LSU is just any time, any circumstance, kind of a team to watch. As much as I hate the matchup, I think I agree with you there. So that's what, 6?
Yeah.
Then
on the other two. I'm not going to argue.
So we're dealing with I think I would. As much as I made the case for Auburn, Maryland, I think you're right. I just don't know that it's the most eye-appealing game. And again, anytime Iowa plays, it's just the sheer curiosity of how bad can that offense look.
Yep.
And hey, Tennessee.
Let's be honest, too. This isn't Tennessee from last year, so
no, but they've still got dudes who can make plays.
Sure.
So
it is a little bit different, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think as we talk through it, I'm a little more interested than when we started.
Yeah, you only have to wait 3 weeks to watch it.
That gives us. Well, nobody will be talking about the games because all the attention will be on the portal and God knows what else.
I was going to say, that gives literally that gives you half your team could transfer in that time. So great.
Yeah.
If you've been somebody calling for the backups to play this season, you're going to get your wish.
Well, you're going to get them.
There'll be a lot of them starting roles.
You think we see Nico Iamaleava?
I'm not making any predictions on personnel until after this week because we are seeing guys all over the place enter the transfer portal, and I have no idea. Yeah. I'm not making.
Well, the thought there is he's kind of thin, and they don't want to get him broken in half before he has a chance to become what he can be, which I get.
We'll see. So,
parting thoughts.
Check out everything. We're going to have predictions for all these games. We're going to have our preview and prediction video, of course. We're not going to do those right away because, we like to kind of have some idea of who's going to play on these teams. So usually you guys know we try to get those out early, but with bowls, you just can't do that anymore. So we'll have those out soon. And we will, break down the games as we usually do. And so that'll be a lot of fun. And check out all of our other football stuff on the channel. We'll have, still have stuff going every day pretty much. And so you can check it all out and all our basketball stuff as well.
Yeah, and baseball will be here before we know it. We'll do that too. So anyway, it's been our bowl reaction show. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee.
I don't know what this has been.
It's been something, hasn't it?
Mm.
Anyway, thank you for watching. This has been our bowl reaction show presented by our friends at Bet Online.